Michael Robertson here. I wanted to take a brief moment to thank you all for being here, teammates, special guest, and tonight presenting is Rick Sheldon. He's my ChatGPT coach, and he's presenting for the fourth time, and I'm glad to call him my friend as well. When you leave, you'll be able to have two prompts that he's built. You'll be able to go ahead and put those into ChatGPT, and it'll help you analyze a market area, but also analyze individual deals. So stay with me till the end, and I'll be able to share with you how you can also access the first three ChatGPT sessions that he presented. So really looking forward to this one, and let's go ahead and get started. Rick.
We're going to go through two exercises, and I'm going to give you guys the prompts that I'm going to use in front of you guys, and you guys can take these prompts and put them into ChatGPT the same way I'm going to show you how to right now. And the outcome of using these two prompts is going to be that you're going to really feel a lot more confident in the market that you're choosing first. So the first thing we're going to do is use the deep research function to really understand if the market that you're considering is worth diving into fully, so you don't get 6 months into it and then decide that you want to switch. And maybe it was totally avoidable if you had done this deep research. So we're going to first talk about that and kind of get an idea about, are the states you're considering worth investing in? And then let's assume that it is, and then we start marketing for deals in that market. The second GPT, or the second exercise, is going to be to take the deals that you're uncovering and just have them analyzed using a custom GPT. So I'm going to first just talk about ChatGPT in general. Obviously we all kind of have heard about it, but sometimes it can be a little bit of an abstract idea, especially when we start throwing terms around like deep research and custom GPTs. I'm sure most of you have just gone to ChatGPT, typed in your question, and kind of had a little bit of banter with it back and forth. That's what most people do, and that's kind of the extent. But there's a lot more that it's capable of if you know how to tap into these different features. So I will begin sharing my screen, and we'll start with that deep research capability. And as I discuss it, I will actually show you over here that I've got one running right now in the background. I didn't want to make you guys wait the 10 minutes or so that it takes to complete. So I took the liberty of kind of putting this prompt in already and answering the follow-up questions. And as we finish talking about it, my research will naturally be done here. So we'll come back and look at that in a moment. But first, let's just talk about how I even got to this step. So if we go to ChatGPT, what I meant when I said that you typically just put a question in, go back and forth a bit here, is really just this text box. So if I say, tell me a joke about flipping land, even with a typo, it does a pretty good job of understanding what we meant. And it says, why did the land flipper bring a ladder to the closing table? Because he heard the deal had a lot of ups and downs. ChatGPT is not the best comedian, I will admit, but this is the type of interaction that you guys are probably most familiar with. Just going to the website, starting a conversation and then going down from there. But if you notice, when I was on this homepage, there's this deep research button. And you also may notice that if I hover over it, it says that I have 8 left until May 6th. So that might, be an indicator for you that what this truly is, it's one of the limited features. You have to be on the plus plan. So if we go to upgrade plan, it's only the $20 a month one. You do not need, and I don't recommend you sign up for this $200 a month one, but this $20 a month one will get you access to the ability to utilize the deep research. So when you use deep research, like I just showed you a second ago, it's going to dive much deeper into, way more sources and take its time generating the research that's going to give you a much more thoughtful answer. It's going to make things up less. It's not going to make things up like it normally does, sometimes anyway, when you're just engaging with it normally. So you come to the main page, make sure you have plus, and then we're going to utilize deep research. So I've already put this prompt together that we're going to utilize, and I'm going to put it in the chat now. And also you guys can reach out to Michael or myself at any time, and we'll give you this prompt again. So the prompt is, and we'll read through the prompt together just to start to understand like what it's going to do before we even utilize it. I'm going to drop it into the chat now if anybody wants to kind of follow along as well. It's actually going to make me drop it in as a couple different messages because it's too long. But there's one. And then there's the second piece, and then there's the third piece. So I had to drop it into the Zoom chat as three different messages, but if you just kind of take all that and drop it into ChatGPT, you're going to be looking like this. So we're going to make sure that the deep research button is toggled on, but first we'll go ahead and read through this. So we want this tool to act as a seasoned land investor, data researcher, and acquisition specialist trained under Michael. And we want the AI to specialize in identifying high opportunity markets for land flipping using real world metrics like transaction activity, buyer demand, population growth, and economic trends. If we had not giving it this role, it's not really going to know what we want as an output. Like now it's understanding, okay, we're going to start to analyze some markets for land flipping. So you should think of this as kind of telling it its role or its job position to like at the beginning. So we're going to tell it exactly what we want it to do, and then we're going to go on and give it some more clarification points. But you see, we could we could have been a lot more vague here. We could have basically left this entire line out. But you see, the more specificity you give it, it's going to tie those specific factors in because we know that those are the types of things that we're interested in. So we're like, okay, we want to be in markets where there's actually deals for sale at reasonable prices that have buyer activity so we can actually, facilitate some transactions. Moving on. You're about to help a new land investor evaluate whether a state is worth targeting for land deals, and if so, which 5 counties are the best for lead generation right now. Before starting, ask me these clarifying questions every time. What state are you evaluating? Are you more interested in rural acreage, infill lots, seller finance, or subdivide? Do you already have a preferred price range? Are you looking for fast flips or long-term holds? And once I answer those questions, perform deep market research on the selected state and return the following. So, just to pause again for a second, just to explain what we're looking at here. We've given it a role. We've given it very specific instructions on how to prompt us and ask us what's important to us. So this is set up in a way that's going to work regardless of whether you personally want to flip land, buy land, subdivide land, like whatever your strategy is, this is going to take that into account as it's doing its deep research so that it's universally applicable for any of you guys. So what we want after the deep, or after we answer the questions, I want you to do deep research and give me the following. Give me a yes or no as to why or whether or not this state is good for land flipping based on population growth, transaction volume, trends, sell-through rate, the job growth, any, macroeconomic trends, investor saturation, all these things are reasons why these are factors that contribute into whether a market is viable or interesting enough to go into. But we really want just a clear yes or no recommendation. So consider all those things, use them in the analysis. But Mr. ChatGPT, I just want a yes or no. Like, should I go into Texas or not? And then afterwards, give me the top 5 counties if the state is viable. So if Texas is a great market, based on all those trends, which 5 counties within that state should I be marketing in and should I be most interested in doing deals in? And here are some requirements. For each county, they must have 100,000 population or more. And by the way, some of these may be a little bit different than Michael's, recommendations for you guys. I don't really flip land. We focus on subdividing more. So, take this and feel free to edit it if you do have some different requirements. But, it's going to go through and say, like, give us our top 5 counties with these considerations in mind. And then tell us what types of deals are most profitable and give us some good information like the assessor's website, delinquent taxpayer list, and anything additional. And now that we've given it a lot of instructions on exactly what we want, and now we're going to kind of tie a little bit more into the first part, which was like the role. So down here at the bottom, we're saying this is how you should present the information to us. So you should be honest. Like this is very important. Sometimes ChatGPT can be a bit of a cheerleader. It can say, "Yeah, you're gonna crush it with whatever you're trying." So it's important to tell it, be honest and be critical. So don't just, agree with whatever state I'm saying. I want you to really give me a yes or no based on your information and be very upfront and honest with me. So examples, margins are pretty slim there, or this one's wide open, still plenty of meat on the bone for new investors. So that's maybe a less saturated market. So, it's just kind of telling it or giving it permission to beat us up a little bit or to be critical of our opinions. And then a final thought, every single time you're ending a response, say, ready to analyze a deal in the state, paste it into this GPT. So that part actually doesn't really matter. I think that could be deleted.
At the end of the day, yes, of course, to be more in the discussion, you want to be at a certain threshold. But if you were going to have the right,
Would you mind muting Steve? Cool. So with this, you're going to click on deep research. And what that's going to do is a little bit different than a normal ChatGPT conversation. So if you remember when I don't want to go to my bank account, ChatGPT. So if you go into ChatGPT and you just type in a regular conversation, you just start a general conversation and you don't use deep research, it's going to just right away, give you some information here. But if we compare this general response without using deep research and then coming back in a moment and looking at what it looks like after it does do deep research, I think it'll be very obvious as to why you guys should start by using this deep research capability to really feel confident in the market that you're going into. So now if I go back over here, while this is selected, it's going to behave a little bit differently. So whereas this one just kind of spit out some stuff like, great, first, like let's ask those questions and then, get onto this. I guess it is doing the beginning because we've explicitly laid it out so well, but you'll still see a difference here when you're using deep research. Asking those questions is a requirement before it dives into doing the deep research, which you saw over here. So right here, as this is loading, that's it thinking and doing its deep research. So that's only going to happen if we have that toggled on after we answer the clarification questions. So Michael, if you may, or if you would just maybe answer these for yourself here really quickly. So what state should we evaluate? And don't choose Florida actually, because
Okay, how about can we go ahead and pick one?
yes.
Okay, Arizona,
Okay. And then are you more interested in rural acreage, infill lots, seller finance, exit strategies, or subdivide ops?
infill lots,
And then do you already have a preferred price range for your purchases?
between $10,000 and $60,000
Per lot?
per lot.
Okay. And then are you looking for fast flips or long-term holds?
Fast flips.
Great. So we just answered those questions. We hit enter, and now that is where it's going to begin the deep research that takes, unfortunately, about 10 minutes. And that's where you see we had this one cooking in the background. It actually took a little bit longer than I suspected. I was hoping to be done with that at this exact moment. So with that, maybe we'll, just open it up for questions for just a couple of minutes while we wait for this.
So the deep research is limited to 10 every 30 days or so, correct?
Yeah, so on that $20 per month option, you get 10 deep research uses per month. And I believe on the higher one, the $200 one, you probably get more. But again, I don't really know if that one's worth it yet. Karan?
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Michael and Rick, for putting this together. But a quick question: when it is doing deep research, is it actually going to the assessor's like website and kind of fine tuning all the stuff that we would look for naturally?
Well, so the first thing I'll say is if we had the forethought of telling it where to do research, it would absolutely do it with those particular methods. One thing I like to utilize, which I did mention in those other three trainings that Michael mentioned, is the Municicode library. So my team likes to rely on this to understand subdivision regulations. So I generally tell it to rely pretty heavily on what Municicode says because I trust it. So it can pull from other places, but I will tell it specifically to incorporate that data. So if we had the forethought to put that into the prompting, then it would absolutely do so. But the other point is you can actually see all the sources as it's doing its research over here. So yep, there's the tax collector's website right there. In Charlotte County anyway. It's pulling from a ton of places.
Okay, perfect.
Yep, anything else?
So when you're going ahead and running it, and sometimes when I've done it and using the deep research works better, but sometimes it's good to review the information
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes fine tune it a little bit.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point where I will mention it's important to remember that so let's say that this one completes and we respond to this. If we don't select deep research again, it's just going to pick it up as if this one was, having the conversation. It's just going to go back to the general GPT, but it's going to remember all the deep research and how it ties in, but it's only going to continue using deep research if when you respond, you toggle it back on. So if you want to have an ongoing deep research conversation, first of all, it takes a lot longer because there's 10 minutes in between responses. And secondly, you're going to burn through your deep research. So it is very important, like Michael said, to do your research ahead of time when you're doing this. So this prompt that we put in here, I actually was using GPT ahead of this call to help me create the prompt that I ended up using here. So it's important to kind of know that you're going in to do deep research and go in prepared with a very well thought, a well rehearsed or a thought out prompt that you've put some effort into kind of refining so that you're not having to go back and forth and critique your own prompting. Like, oh wait, I said this, but I actually forgot to mention this. Just go through, use the standard GPT to fine tune the prompt that then goes into the deep research. But I will also say this is irrelevant if you use the exact prompt that I posted in the chat. Like I already did that step. You can take this and utilize exactly what I put. Click deep research, answer the 4 qualifying questions for yourself and your own business, and then it's going to do it on your behalf.
So to give us a
Yeah.
head start, we worked together. I did an initial draft, but you fine-tuned the prompt and you put this prompt in the chat. So when we're done, could the teammates here take that prompt, go to ChatGPT, do a deep research, but tweak it maybe for a different market area, or maybe.
Well, I tried to create the prompt, and by the way, Tyrone, I can put that back in there again, but give me a second there. But I created this prompt to be universal so that the prompt itself, when it's told to ask us clarifying questions, and those clarifying questions are about the user's model. So let's say, Juan's right here about to ask a question. So let's say Juan uses this exact prompt, but he does subdivides in New Mexico. When he uses this same exact prompt, the questions that it asks to clarify, when he says subdivides in New Mexico, it's going to go down a different research angle. But the prompt to get to that point is the exact same. So you should all be able to use that prompt and get started here. And then you remember the goal of this, using this prompt with deep research is to decide if the state that you're curious about is a great state to market in. So the idea would be that you're basically going to put the name of the state, tell a little about your business model, and then it's going to go off and do all of its research.
So Rick, just real quick. So you said that you asked GPT to help you create the prompt.
hmm And make it better.
So
Yep.
you are gonna help me make a prompt, and I need these things. Okay.
Yep. So let's mute Jasmine. Cool. Yes, exactly that. So I like to treat ChatGPT like my friend who's a lot smarter than me. And with that, I'll just explain clearly. I want to use deep research and I want to be able to understand the market dynamics by just putting so I'm going to tell ChatGPT exactly what I want to create, which is a prompt to create a deep research thread. So, this is maybe getting into the weeds a bit because I really wanted to help you guys avoid that entire step by providing the prompt. So the answer to your question is yes, but hopefully you don't even have to do that step.
At some point, a few people joined after you put the prompt in the chat. Maybe you can put it in again at some point.
Yeah, I will a little bit later.
Okay, thanks.
Cool. So Juan, I think let's take your question and maybe Kathy, depending on the timeline of this deep research, but as soon as it's done, we'll jump right back into that. So Juan, what's up?
Yeah, hey Rick, thanks both of you, by the way. When the prompt that you were putting and you put like, for example, Arizona, and you answer that, after you answer that, it's going to start the deep research, right?
Yep.
So after the deep research, any follow-up questions, would they be considered regular questions based on that deep research? So you're not using the deep research 10 limit?
Exactly. And the one little clarification point there is when you put in the main prompt and click deep research and then click enter, it's not only going to ask you the state, it's going to ask you 4 questions. So those 4 questions are going to give it enough context about your model. So state, like deal structure, like are you looking to buy them or sell them? So it's going to try to understand what you're after, what you're trying to do. And then, yeah, go deep into that. And exactly like you mentioned, after it gives me that deep research, I'm going to kind of take that and avoid continuing to use more deep research is probably, save my other ones for next week or something like that.
Got it, got it. And I've always had this question. Last time you did customized ChatGPT, right? But the deep research goes in the general ChatGPT, and if you needed it, you would use that information in the customized side.
Yeah, that's a great
Got it.
question. And before we jump over to Kathy and Henry, I do want to share my screen because that's a great point and something I may have glossed over a little bit. But back to the kind of the anatomy of ChatGPT, I guess you've got the main screen here. You type in a prompt just like normal and you click deep research. That's exactly what you've just mentioned. And that's different than what I'm going to go into after this, which is going to be giving you another prompt to create a custom GPT like we went over in the deeper training. And then that custom GPT is going to be used to analyze a specific deal within the market that you've now decided to go into. So in this situation, we're letting this deep research go on Michael's behalf, looking at infill lots in Arizona. And if it determines that that's a good idea, then we're going to use the next exercise to create the custom GPT that will go through several questions in a row to really help us understand if the deal that we're actually looking at in that market is worth completing. Okay, so Kathy, it looks like we do have time for maybe one more question before we have this finish up.
Great, thanks. Can you explain when I would use deep research versus regular GPT?
So partially you want to use deep research sparingly because you only get 10 per month. So that's one thing. You just kind of, whenever you have a burning question or a very important decision, that's a great time to incorporate the deep research. The non-deep research, modalities are also very powerful. So you by no you by no means need to do deep research very often. But when it's something as big as deciding if I want to go into this new state and I don't want to have to read through hundreds of pages of codes and bylaws and regulations, that's when it's great to incorporate deep research because you can trust the answer given by the AI a lot more than if you don't do deep research.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yep. Henry.
Yeah, just a comment. I'm only going to be looking for residential vacant land. And so I pulled your prompt in and it's running now doing deep research. And I asked it to look for some of the same values that Michael gave you for Arizona here in Tennessee, but also to limit it to just commercial, not have any commercial property, just looking for residential vacant land.
Mm-hmm. Yep, great idea. Okay, so it looks like we're yeah, a little bit stalled out here with this last section of deep research. So I'll just start to explain a little bit about custom GPTs and what we're going to do right after we get this answer, assuming that it is a good idea to be in Florida, which I imagine it is. So let's go over to ChatGPT, the main screen again, and talk about the concept of a custom GPT, which is another thing that's a requirement to be on the plus plan. Can we mute NJ? Okay. So if you're on the plus plan, then you also get to create custom GPTs. And what that means is it's basically a pre-programmed GPT where it's already been given the background or the context of what we want to use it for.
In the evening. Check your
So with this, we go down to the left to explore GPTs, click there, and then you click create right here. So this is a pretty scary screen, maybe. It's a little bit more complicated than non-custom GPTs, but it's really it's pretty straightforward. All we need to do is create a name. Let's just do deal. Let's do land deal analyzer. The description is actually not important at all, and the instructions are the second thing that I've already pre-programmed, or I guess come up with for us to look at together. So let me grab this and post it here. And again, I'll post this into the chat in a couple different sections here.
When you do that, will that make it a custom one?
Yeah, this is we're essentially in the middle of creating a custom GPT right now that will be saved and will be able to be reused. And whatever context we're giving it here in this instruction is going to be remembered by it. And it's going to kind of behave how we've instructed it to behave every single time we use it. And it
So-
looks like this one is a little bit longer. So I'm putting like 4 different messages in the chat. But I think it'll be a lot easier when I share a Google document with you guys. So again, reach out to Michael after the call if you guys need that. But let me just dive into this. So again, once this deep research is done, we say, now I'm committed to marketing in Florida. Now a couple weeks go by, I've got a handful of deals and I want to go analyze them. Hopefully a couple of hours go by, not weeks. But we've spent a little bit of time marketing. We've found an opportunity. Now we're going to use this custom GPT that we're making right now to analyze the deal. So first I'm going to go through the prompting, and then I'll show you how to finish actually creating and using the GPT. But let's just talk about what it's going to do first. So we want it to act as a similar thing. You're going to be a seasoned land investor. You're going to be data oriented. I want you to you're trained under Michael. So, Michael's got some data published online. This is even smart enough to go find that data and incorporate some of Michael's recommendations. So your job is to evaluate US state based on the user input to help a land investor decide whether the state. Oh, wait a second. One sec. This is not the prompt I wanted, actually. Let me find something I was working on a second ago. Land deal analysis mentor. Well, this will be, I thought I had that properly laid out, but it looks like it's not quite right. So let me give it one critique here, which you can see, in front of us, how we can fine tune the prompt like there was a question about earlier. So if I just come in here and I say, this is good, but it's actually a little bit different than what I need because this is more like the deep research prompt that is going to be used to understand if the state itself is worth investing in. But what I really want is the prompt used in the instructions for the custom GPT that would be used to analyze the actual deal found by marketing in that state after deciding to market there. So the user would type in the information about a deal, and you should go through the different aspects of the deal and ask about each one so that they are giving you enough information for you to determine for them if this is a deal that they should be investing in. And I want you to be critical of the deal, not overly optimistic. So now we're going to type that in and it's going to change, the prompt.
So the Chat GPT can help you craft your prompt even better.
I did have this somewhere as well. This is all looking pretty familiar. I just couldn't find it in time. Okay, so we're going to take that new prompt. Again, we'll share it after the call. I think that'll be the easiest way. And then I'm just going to put this in here and we'll go over it again. So now it's told you are a critical thinker. You're reviewing a deal. You're expert trained by Michael. You help land investors analyze individual deals found after marketing in a particular state. You should guide them through a thorough review of the deal to determine if it's worth pursuing with honesty and discipline. You're not here to make them feel good. You're here to protect their time, energy, and capital. So that's like such an important concept here. Is give it permission to be critical of your thought process. How you work when a user starts a conversation with the deal, your first step is to ask the following information in a clear, structured format. Ask the user for the following details: county, parcel number, offer price, ARV, lot size, access type, all the good stuff. Analyze the deal. Once all the data is provided, walk through these 6 checkpoints. Give me a quick summary. Give me any red flags. Give me any weak or questionable comps. Give me all the stuff that I should be worried about. Give me the value and margin review based on the types of deals that you're doing. Give me a rating. So this is going to be the best indicator. Basically, if it's got a check mark, good to go. If it's a red X, probably not worth doing. So this is the prompt that is going into the instructions while we're creating the custom GPT. And just to remind you guys, just for repetition, to create a custom GPT, you go to the left, click Explore GPTs, create, and now we're here. And this is where you're pasting that prompt. So we just name it, put the instructions, and that's all we have to do. And you see here, anyone with the link can also use this. So you really don't even need to build your own version of this custom GPT. I can put this link in the chat and you guys could use the same thing as I do it.
So by building the custom GPT, we can use this over and over again to keep analyzing deals, correct?
Exactly. So now it's over here in my menu over like these, not that this means much because there's so many crazy words, but this top left section are all custom GPTs that I built. So I can click on any of them and get to that quick output really quickly. For example, the add creative GPT is a cool one, or land add GPT. This is a great one. I'll just detour for half a second. Say, I want to make Facebook ads for landowners who are in the probate situation. So it knows what output I want when it comes to making ads. It's going to give me 10 versions of my text. It's going to give me some targeting keyword, like it's going to give me a lot of info that I've already programmed it to give me. So now back to our land analyzer GPT. Let's just find a parcel really quickly and drop it in here. I might have information that's not quite accurate, but we'll see. We'll take Regina Lowell. So Regina has land at this place in Sally, South Carolina. So to properly evaluate, I need all this stuff. So the county number, or the APN, let's grab that. Let's say the offer price. Let's just, make up some things that I can. Let's say $125,000. And we think we can get $225,000. And it's, 30 acres. Let's see if that's reasonable. 125 divided by 30. Yeah, something like that. So we're going to get it at 30 acres for 125K. The access is corner lot with frontage on north and west edges. Topography, hopefully this is very flat. Zoning, I don't know. Just say, I don't even know the zoning. That's what I want you for. HOA, I don't know about HOA. Exit strategy, I want to flip it fast. Any known red flags? Well, the agent is a dickhead. Any available comps or recent sales nearby? Maybe you can help with comps. How you acquired this lead? Direct to seller outreach from a tax delinquent list. So some of this is to show you that you can kind of push back and say like, hey, I don't even know that. Like, that's what I want you for. But as much info as you can give it is obviously going to help. So if we just answer its questions, now it's going to give us a summary of its take on that deal. So let's go through and say, okay, the deal summary, county and parcel, not specified. But based on the address, it's likely in Aiken County, which is true. Offer price, 125K. I guess it just summarized all the answers I gave, and then it said, let's go step by step. So first, you're looking at a 30-acre flat corner lot, likely in Aiken, South Carolina, picked up from a tax delinquent list. They're looking for 125. You think you can get 225. You're looking to flip it, and it appears to have strong road frontage on two sides, but we're missing zoning, comping, exact location. So some red flags, no confirmed comps to justify the 225K ARV. That's a 100K margin, which sounds great, but we don't know if it's real. Zoning unknown, agent is unhelpful. So this stuff is pulling just from the data that we gave it. It's not actually doing all that great of a job pulling public data. Value and margin review. Let's test your margin logic. So if we can sell it if we can buy it at 125, we can sell it at 225. That's obviously a great spread. We're picking it up at 4K per acre, selling it at 7,500. We need to verify though do the comps support selling at 7,500? So we think we can get 25, we think we can get 225K, but can we actually? So we should definitely verify that instead of just taking that jerk agent's opinion on it. Now let's pull up comps for the area. So it looks like after reviewing some comps, the data indicates that undeveloped rural land typically sells for 2 to 5K per acre in this area, depending on specific location and attributes. Given that we have a 30-acre parcel, this suggests a market value between 60 and 150. So, that's kind of why it's telling us we should be careful of that ARV. Like we might be off there. And it gives us links, by the way, to where it's pulling this data from. So it kind of cites itself as it goes. So that's good. That's probably a good read. But then it says, okay, so however, your asking price is 125, which is only 4K per acre, which aligns with the higher end of this range. Your projected resale value of 225 implies approximately 7,500 per acre, exceeding the typical market ranges for similar properties. Notably, a 20.5 acre property on this road was listed only at 175. So that's our competition. And that's only, so that's actually 8,500 per acre though, because it's only 20 acres. That's not that bad. 8,500 is still higher than what we would get, but it's only $1,000 higher than what we're projecting. So this is higher than average, but it's important to verify such listings. So I don't know if this is a link to the comp itself. Yep, that's great. So that's going to help us understand maybe this has a water feature, or maybe it's, in the path of progress and it's going to be developed. And that's why it's a premium, like you can take a look at the land here and see if anything jumps out at you as to why it's that price. Okay, and then additionally, a 30-acre property in Aiken with a residence on it is listed at 1.5 million, but it includes a substantial home. So, let's basically disregard that. But given this info, your projected value may be overly optimistic, especially with improvements or unique features especially without improvements or unique features. So again, that may be why this one's getting a premium price. Maybe it's got, great land features. So it's doing a great job of saying you're in line, that's reasonable, but you should be careful of this because of this. So access and usability. Your property benefits from being on a corner lot, indicating good physical access, and the flat topography is also favorable. However, without specific zoning information, it's challenging to determine permissible uses, which could impact marketability and resale value. One thing that we might want to try when you're using standard custom GPT, whenever you're using ChatGPT and you get a response, you can highlight part of it and click on this button. And maybe I want to say, tell me the zoning info, respond to that part and say, like, can you find the zoning for this parcel based on the APN? And, I don't want to deviate, but we could go back and forth with it here. So moving on to the risk rating, it says medium to high risk. And again, that's going to be a result of the fact that it's not discounted all that much. We're at the high end of the price point. So the concerns, we don't really have a good ARV nailed down. We don't know the zoning at this point, and the market demand, uncertainty about demand for properties at the resale price point. So that's probably pulled from because we told it to include things like sell-through rates, for example. So the prompt initially was telling it how important sell-through rates are. So that's how, it's probably tying this type of comment in. The overall verdict determined by ChatGPT, drum roll please, is to pass. So it carries a lot of risk, and you're being optimistic about the ARV, and it's just too much of an unknown with the info here. And then a final teaching moment. Always ground your resale projections in verified comparable sales and current market data. So this is just kind of helping you become a better investor. I don't even think this was in the prompt, but it's just doing a great job at, helping us understand if the deal is good, and then how to take the lessons and apply it to future deals. And then I do remember this was at the bottom of the prompt. So, that's how we told it to finish the conversation. So I'll come back for questions in just a moment, but before I do that, I want to summarize what we've done, and I assume our deep research is done. So I'll put it in the context of that. So sign up for ChatGPT Plus, $20 a month. Go in, take the prompt I gave you, use deep research to understand if the state that you're interested in is worth marketing in compared to other states. If it is, it'll give you the best 5 counties in that state based on all those variables we told it to consider. We kind of assumed that that was the case and moved on to the second part, which is the custom GPT that takes the details of a deal in that market and helps you decide if you want to do it. So that's what we've gone through. We started with the deep research. We assumed it was a yes. We kind of made up some numbers on a deal, and that's what we've gone through here. So when we look at the deep research, it's actually still going. Let's see if this other one was finished. It looks like maybe there was just an issue on that one with something. The one that we
Rick,
did,
can you ask it to give you an update?
well, I could maybe refresh the screen. That might do it. Yeah, it looks like it was just kind of having a little issue there, but also Michael's that we put in was finished as well. So we could really look at either of them. But the level of detail it's going to give you in this deep research output is going to be apparent as we scroll through here. So first we typed in Florida, anything for land flips. We're looking for discounts on land flips. We don't care about the price range and we want to do fast flips. So knowing that, went in and said, hey, Florida has a robust population growth. The population increased by this much. So you see how much you can already tell it's super data oriented. It's giving us very specific data about the market and the land market velocity, the sell-through rates, the economic trends, the margins. This is so much detail and so many citations to take you to where it got its research from. Investor competition. This is a big one in Florida, I'm sure. The flip side of Florida's popularity is the investor saturation. It's a very well-known market. You won't be the only one mailing offers and hunting deals. In fact, Florida is one of the most popular states for land investors, from small mom and pops to large land investment firms. Competition's high. So that's, I know intuitively that that's true. I'm sure Michael does too. We've told it that we care about things like, natural disasters and habitat for humanity locations and things like that. So as you scroll through, it's going to give you a ton to chew on. And because it says that it is a good market, it's giving us our top 5 counties, which is what we told it to do. So it says, based on all that stuff, and Michael, you can chime in and let me know how this feels to you intuitively. But Polk County, I'm not even familiar with Polk County.
Very popular.
Great. Yeah. It says why Polk. It says it's exploding with growth thanks to its location, Central Florida. It's the largest net influx of people in the recent years. 12% growth since 2020. That is driving heavy demand for land because new housing developments are sprouting up like weeds. And this is great because if you're selling to developers, you're going to get a great price on your land compared to selling to a small home builder or, like a single person who wants to put a mobile home on it or something. So it's going to go into quite a bit more information about Polk and then say Lee County is the next best bet.
Yeah,
Fort
also
Myers.
very popular.
Yeah, I know for a fact I've seen plenty of lots in Lehigh Acres. So, yeah, that sounds good. And, without going into all that research, it seems like it's doing a great job, to my understanding, of researching all the stuff to see if Florida is a good market, deciding that it is, and then giving us the 5 best counties. So now if we put this into the context of having done this, maybe we pull lists in these 5 counties. We start marketing in these 5 counties. We come across deals, and now we're analyzing those deals with the land analyzer GPT, or the where was it? Land deal analyzer, the one that we just created. So you can come in, type in any deal as you keep coming across more opportunities and analyze them to feel confident in them. And by the way, I feel like the output of the land deal analyzer was pretty good, but it could be optimized for sure. You saw how we came up with that prompt kind of on the fly. So we could fine tune it, tell ChatGPT what's more important to us and what hey, I don't want to provide you the APN. I want you to kind of make your judgment without that and things like that. So hopefully that helped. I will pass it to Michael for a sec to kind of, chime in with any questions.
Yeah. I think that's great. You put the prompts in the chat. When we're finished, might you be able to email those to me at some point, and then I can be able to go back to everyone and share it in a different format as well.
Exactly. And that format will be a lot more convenient because it won't be broken up into different messages. So it'll be like spelled out, and we'll just put it in a Google Doc, and then you can share it with everybody.
Yeah, the deep research is great. I think a lot of it comes down to the prompts. So my suggestion would be you can't break it. Just get in there and play around with it and tweak your prompts. And like the deal analyzer, I might go and say, well, please, I want you to use Redfin and Zillow and some other tools, and maybe fine tune it a little bit.
Exactly. Anybody else have questions?
Kathy had one. Go ahead.
Yeah, so when you run these searches, are the results automatically saved somewhere that you're able to reference at a later date without having to rerun the deep search?
Yeah, so back to the anatomy of ChatGPT. So when we're on ChatGPT's main screen, all these ones here on the top left, these are my custom GPTs. But if I scroll down, here's my history of past conversations.
Okay, and is that indefinite history or is there a time
I
line to
believe
it?
it's indefinite. I don't have that exact answer, but I do also use this search function right here. Just search what you're interested in, and that's a very effective way to kind of find one of those past conversations.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, a tip, by the way, on that is use a phrase that's not going to be commonly used in several different conversations. If you can remember, oh, we were talking about something and Fort Lauderdale came up, so type in, Fort Lauderdale. The more specific you can be with the phrase that you use for searching, the quicker you'll get to that document that you're looking for.
Rick, is there a way to one of the I think in the custom GPT, one of the sites that it used, you pulled up, and I know that site, and I've done it. It's pulled up that exact site on some queries that I ran to, and that site's just I don't know why it keeps going to that. I guess because it's called Land Boss. But is there a way to exclude sites like that? Because I have no interest in reading their website.
Yeah, I gotcha. And yeah, it's probably a function of like how good they are at SEO.
Yeah,
Like they probably have good SEO, which makes it more indexable, but you can absolutely tell it to disregard a certain domain.
Okay.
Yep.
Is there a term that could help disregard that and similar ones? Like don't pull up sites that I don't even know.
That have order forms on the website.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Yeah.
limit the search, the research to widely used websites that are extremely, used across the board, not some guy like me in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, so I'll drop the link to this in the chat if anybody wants to utilize it. But it is something that I've built it's a custom GPT that you would get access to understand rules around exempt subdivides, like whether or not you can do an exempt subdivide in a market based on just typing in the name of a county. And that one is, I guess I couldn't really find it last time I tried to hunt it down over here, but it's in there somewhere. And I've told it in its instructions to rely heavily on that Municicode library. So I think it's a combination of tell it what types of data to pull from
And
and
whatnot.
what types of things not to pull from. Yeah.
Okay, that's helpful.
Just
Thank you.
spelling it out. Like that's the beauty of ChatGPT is just like if it's in your mind, just spit it out and it'll do a pretty good job of incorporating it.
Yeah. Thank you so much. You've been super helpful. You know, after the first three meetings we had, I DM'd Rick and he's like super responsive and super helpful. So thank you so much.
Of course.
Yeah, great presentation, going from the deep research and then building out the custom GPT. You are just my friend, my ChatGPT coach, and also in the land business as well. So, greatly
Happy to cross
appreciate you.
paths.
And if you can send me an email with those prompts in there, I can share them in a different format later. And, again, you've been very generous with your time. Maybe if anyone has any last questions for Rick, and then I'm going to share with you guys how you can participate in the previous 3 sessions he did as well, and additional ways that we can potentially work together. But any last questions for Rick?
I noticed when you were open this, but that is your company as well, right?
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay. All right. I just made a note because I didn't know that until I saw you go into that CRM and got my attention. So
Yeah, I've put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into that thing.
so,
Cool. Well,
Yeah.
Michael.
Yeah, great job. I greatly appreciate it. I'm just going to share with everyone how you can get the other 3 sessions, and I'm going to go ahead and I put my contact information, email and phone number in the chat. That's my cell phone, so I'm pretty easy to get hold of. So I'm going to go ahead and if you can stop sharing, and I'll go ahead and share. So this is if you want to get the other 3 sessions to the ChatGPT Mastery, you can go ahead and scan that QR code. It will take you to a checkout page. It's $47. And also on there's an opportunity if you're interested in working together. I did a 5-day workshop. There's 10 hours in here. And I went through our course and shared that. Some people on here have been in that as well. And there's a QR code for that. And this is a brief testimonial here. And Henry's on here.
Michael, I've been doing this since 1989, and you still show me new stuff. Thank you, buddy.
But I just appreciate this information because it's like clear, concise, to the point. Like you have everything organized, and I just appreciate that. So thank you so much.
You're literally giving us the sauce, as people would say in our industry. So you're really showing us a real business motto, how to be successful in life through the land.
I just want to say thank you. That's your open attitude of being able to share. That's a big thing.
I really appreciate all the information that you've been sharing, and I've just gained so much knowledge from your class. And I'm kind of sad it's the last day because
Hey there, my name is Isaac Hall. I'm 19. I currently have a 15K land flip underway, which I'm really excited about. And I owe a lot of that to Michael.
So anyway, if you guys want to continue to work together, I'll just pull up one of those with the QR code again. You can scan that, and it takes you to a checkout page. The GPT Mastery will include all 4 sessions. It's $47, and then the 5-day workshop, you can do that on the same checkout page as well, and that's right there. And it's 100% satisfaction for any of the products, and my email and phone number are in the chat as well. But I'm here now to answer any questions you may have.
So Michael, my question would be, are you incorporating the findings so are you pulling a list from your various sources and then taking a look at some properties, putting those into this analyzer and then picking which ones to make offers on? How are you incorporating this tool?
Yeah, at this point, you've seen the analyzer that Rick just created as much as I have. I've worked on some myself, but not as advanced as Rick's, but I will be definitely trying those.
Okay. That's what I was wondering. Just wondering how to pull it all together.
Yeah. I really like the deep research. Rick did a better job at it than I did. When I ran it, it timed out, so I'd have to tell it to continue. And part of that has to do with the crafting of the prompt.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to mention is what's really cool is the shareability of it. So I think it would be really cool if you guys each tried to go build one of those custom GPTs, not only by following the one that I gave you all the prompt of, because those would be the same as each other, but as you guys build custom GPTs, share them in Michael's group with each other, because you guys can each take advantage of them. So if you guys each went and built one cool one, shared it, now you guys have you guys have access to like 20 to 30 great GPTs between each other.
Yeah, I've created them for a few different things. One is I'm doing some more posts on Facebook than I had. And so I went into ChatGPT and I had it create Alicia, the news reporter. And I told Alicia exactly how to act, be witty, be fun, be humorous. Um, and then I can go ahead and take a headline from something that has to do with AI and real estate. And I can take that and put it in a few other tools and with prompts, and it will spit it out. And then I feed it to Alicia, and she rewrites it and makes some. I had it the other day. Tell me a joke about land flippers. So it created a joke, and I went ahead and posted it in the group. So with the custom GPTs, there's so many possibilities with that.
Yeah, and one little critique I like to give it is no BS. If I'm
Yeah.
trying to use it to make posts, it's like cut the BS. That's a good line to tell it to just kind of sound more human. And that's my style. I like to be a little bit more direct. So I like that as a little bit of guidance. But also it's just something that I've been thinking about lately is the authenticity of posting with AI. I think of it like bringing your own expertise to the public without as much effort. So, for example, you know, the CRM involves people needing to get A2P verified. If you guys have heard of that, like horror story, like what that crazy word means, it's like harder and harder to get your text messages delivered these days. So, my team going deep into that, we've got a lot of expertise. So, it might feel a little bit inauthentic to say, hey, ChatGPT, give me a post I can post on Facebook because but when you can put enough programming into the prompt, it's still going to end up being like authentically valuable for your audience. So like if I tell it to give me some really concrete information to help people get their A2P verified, that's AI generated, but it's generated from a place of, you know, I guess a place of having a specific issue where a specific audience is going to get value from it. So I still feel, okay about posting those types of things. Even though they're AI generated, I feel like that's authentic if you put enough time and energy into kind of like crafting the prompt and getting the right output.
Yeah. And that when I created Alicia, the reporter, what it says that in there that I'm Alicia, the reporter. So it's not coming from me.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
the information and she's going out on the streets and gathering it and reporting.
Yep. And I saw the images, the cartoons, those are great.
So as fun as it is for playing around, it's a great tool for work. And I think you just saw what Rick did. You have an assistant that can help analyze some deals for you. It doesn't mean that we don't have to be involved, but it can help with some of those tasks.
Hey, Rick, I have a question for you, if you don't mind.
Mhm.
Is there a way when you're doing, say, a custom GPT, if you're looking to kind of refer back to deep research, could you have it refer to a deep research that it already did?
The way I would think that's most naturally done is to ask that question in the same thread that the deep research was done. It has
Yeah.
so there's the concept of memory is a little bit hard to understand in ChatGPT because when you first start using ChatGPT, you go from one conversation, you start a new thread. It feels totally unique and totally dedicated to that question. But as you start to like, if you use it as much as I do, I can't remember what I asked it earlier today. Oh, I do. I was talking to an EOS specialist, like a business EOS specialist, and I was preparing for a conversation with that person, I said, based on what you know about my company, give me a list of questions that I should discuss with them. And it not like as you have multiple conversations, it not only memorizes things within one thread, it has more memory if you ask it something about something above it in the same chat. But even between chats, it'll start to understand you and your business model and things like that and your interests. So just by me going to a new chat, not deep research, no custom GPT, I just said, give me a list of questions to talk about with this EOS specialist. It gave me a list of amazing questions.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
Yep.
I'll share my screen one last time, but thank you very much for everything that you do.
See you guys.